neither is easy. Starting a company from scratch has its share of challenges, and transforming a company also does as well. Of course, when you start a company from scratch, you're starting a company from scratch. So it's all your ideas, it's your philosophies, it's your processes and procedures, things that you know have been tried and true in the past. On the other hand, when you're transforming a company, you have to affect cultural change. And cultural change, behavioral change, that's very, very difficult to do. You've got to gain the trust of the people that you're asking to transform. You've got to get them to a position where they are learning what it is you're trying to teach them. You've got to ensure their commitment and their energy level and their focus is there. It's not a numbers game. At this point, you're dealing with human beings, human capital, and dealing with that is a separate and unique challenge. Well, you know, information, data is not perfect. And on top of that, it's always subject to interpretation. So I would say you really don't ever know when you have enough information to make a decision. It's a belief that you have, it's a feeling that you have, and it's based on perhaps being in similar circumstances in years gone by, that you know, I've got this information, I've pressure tested it sufficiently so that I have a level of confidence in it. The moon and the stars are in the right alignment. Let's make the call and let's go on from there. And so you make the decision because that's what you're being paid to do. And if you had to rely on perfect information every time, you probably would never make one. Well, a CEO should play gutsball when he feels like the circumstances warrant it. And actually, I've created my own definition for gutsball. It's not a common term. But I've created my own definition for gutsball, and basically it's a two-pronged definition. One is the ability to set aside apprehension or anxiety and rise to the occasion. And two, it's the ability to make a decision acknowledging that there may be consequences but not being afraid of them. So in the case of the first part of the definition, you're up in the bottom of the ninth inning with the bases loaded and down by 3 runs. You've got to be able to stand in there and try to hit one out, or at least get a few runs in. In the case of the second one, you know that some decisions you're going to make are not going to turn out the way you originally intended, but you have the confidence that you can make the decision, deal with the unintended consequences, and end up in a good place after all. Well, first, I think it's very important to be prepared before the recession actually occurs. I mean, we know that businesses move in cycles, up cycles and down cycles. I think it's very important during an up cycle to get prepared for the inevitable down cycle. Now, this last recession was very significant, and nobody was fully prepared for that, but you need to get prepared while the business is up and swinging. You need to be prepared for that down cycle. You need to make sure that you're focused on the right things, that you're aligned against the right opportunities. And once the recession hits, recognize that your goals need to be realistic in keeping with the business environment. So whereas you may have been able to achieve double-digit growth in an up cycle, you're not going to achieve the same level of growth in a down cycle. Set your goals appropriately, realistically for the business environment. And finally, make sure during the down cycle that you keep your company healthy enough and well-positioned for the inevitable up cycle, because they will always happen as well. And what you want to make sure is that you do the things you need to do to have a competitive advantage when the world emerges from a down cycle.